Have you ever wondered if your block account is going to be the sufficient source for you when you come here to Germany as a student in 2025? Is the amount is sufficient enough for you to survive in Germany? Is it something that you only need to rely on, or you must be seeking alternative options in order to have a good and healthy lifestyle in Germany? In today's video, we will be navigating through one of the most crucial topic, the student expenses in Germany. What is the harsh reality, how much you need to consider, and what things you need to have in mind when you plan your abroad studies. About me, I'm Akshay Sabkar. It's been a quite long time that I have been here in Germany, and today's video is going to be the informative video regarding the topic of student life in Germany and student expenses in Germany. So, as a student, the very important thing, the major expense is going to be towards your accommodation. Why I am going to emphasize on this topic is because I have been here as a student. I lived in the biggest cities of Germany, and the cost of living, if you try to pay the highest amount of rent as a student, will not be the ideal solution for you in the longer run. So now let us try to understand how much amount it is in reality, what are the things you need to consider when you plan your journey, and what you can do about it in order to have a healthy and balanced lifestyle. So the first and at most thing you need to consider is the major portion of your block account will go towards your accommodation. I myself was paying somewhere around 650 euro at the beginning, and later it got increased year after year up to 750 euro as a student in the city of Munich. So if you are someone who got an admit in the city of Munich, in the city of Frankfurt, in the city of Berlin, Cologne, then the accommodation is going to be the challenging part for you. What you can do about it? So the thing what you can consider is applying for a student dormitories. If you decide to go for a private WG or the private apartment, the cost for the private apartment these days in Cologne, I am personally paying for my accommodation is 1600. As a student, if you wish to stay in a private apartment, this will be a huge deal for you in the early stage, which will put you in the pressurized situation in a longer run, and I personally do not want you to go into that direction. Therefore, I have also prepared a video how can you plan your financials in Germany from the early age. So the utmost tip I could advise you is, as soon as you get the admit for the any course in German city or in Germany, try to apply for a student dormitory. The challenging part is the waiting period. For me, when I got my admit back in 2020, I had a waiting list for 2 semesters. Therefore, I had to pay outside of the student dormitory for my accommodation, in which I was not able to save any money. But this is the thing you can consider when you get an admit. As soon as you have the admit, apply for the student dormitories for your university, for the neighbor universities, for the surroundings, so that you can save the major portion of your block account by spending just on the rent. The second utmost thing is you need to be considering is eating. So we are humans, we of course would love to eat, it is necessity of our body, and the cost of eating is the expensive cost in Germany at this point. If you're a student and who do not know how to cook, will not going to help you in the longer run. You will have to start learn something at some point, because if you try to eat outside daily, the cost per meal would be somewhere around 10 to 15 euros. If I talk about the amount per day, if you don't know how to cook, by roughly taking 20 euros per day, multiplying by 30, will go up to 600 euros per month. So you're already paying somewhere around 500 euros if you are lucky or fortunate to get an accommodation under that budget. If not, then you will be paying the highest amount for wages. And if I talk about the 500 euros and already a 600 euros for your eating outside, makes it total of the balance which is beyond the amount what you will get from your block account. So if you are one who do not know how to cook, take a help, try to learn. And if you decide to do the smart groceries in Germany, if you decide to shop at the Penny, at the Rewe, at the Aldi, you will be done with your groceries somewhere around 150 to 200 euros. By default, you will be saving a huge amount of portion. But we are considering at this point that you know how to cook. So we are wrapping up the monthly expense somewhere around 200 euros. Now, the mandatory part of the expense. Yes, we are talking about the health insurance in Germany. It is a mandatory for each individual. For a student who are below 30 years will have to go for a statutory mandatory health insurance in Germany. I myself had a TK insurance and I'm still continuing my TK insurance, but we have multiple options in the market. So if you don't know how to get the statutory health insurance, how to start the block account in Germany, then I have also put the video links in the description below. Take a look at those videos. But you already know the amount will be somewhere around 120 euros. So at this point, if we talk about an average person who got the moderate accommodation in the student dormitory or in the private WG, is paying 500 euros for their accommodation. On top of it, they are spending 200 euros for their monthly grocery, which makes a total of 700 euros at this point. On top of it, now you have a mandatory insurance to pay of 120 euros. So now makes it total of 820 euros. Now we talk about the block amount, how much it is going to give you towards the end of the month. Of course, we are individual, we need to go outside, we would love to connect with the people. For that we will be needing an internet, mobile SIM card. So if I talk about the mobile SIM card itself, will cost you somewhere around 10 to 15 euro with a good gigahertz plan. So I personally use a WinSIM in the past and now it got converted to the SIM 24. I am paying this is 15 euro for a 60 gigahertz, which is I think a really good deal. If you would like to go for the same SIM card company, I have put the link in the description below. I have also prepared a video on the topic wherein what are the things you need to consider when you plan your journey to the European university. If you haven't watched that video, the link is in the description below. Now, moving towards the next expense is hanging out with the friends. So if you're someone who love to hang out with the friends, who love to go outside, have some fun, do some activity, would love to go for a fitness, would love to take a part into the community event, would love to play sport the way I liked or used to play badminton back in my old city, so you need to consider somewhere around 50 to 100 euros as a buffer expense that you will be spending on this type of activities. So these are at this point are the mandatory expenses what we have discussed during this video. And as you can already see, the amount is already beyond your blocked account amount. So if you are a student and who would like to have a financial freedom in Germany, we are going to talk about the tips and tricks where you can save the money and what you can do with this money in order to release the burden in the longer run. So the very first thing we can try to do is try to find an accommodation in the student dormitory. If you are fortunate enough and if you got an admit or the accommodation in the student dormitory, you will be paying hardly somewhere around 200 to 250 euros, which is already a 50% lesser if you decide to go for a WG or personal accommodation in Germany. Yes. And now if you are someone who got the admit in the public university, of course your public university will not all the time cover the expenses, but for my university we had a semester ticket wherein the Deutschland ticket was covered under it. So that is another relief from the university. So if you do not know about this, ask your administrative department, try to check with them if they offer such services. If not, there would be an option to get the services at the discounted rate also. You can go to the regional ban office of your city, you can tell them you are a student, you have enrollment certificate, you show them the enrollment certificate and you will also get the discounted rate from them. I'm not quite sure if it is applicable towards the Deutschland ticket, but when I was in Munich, when I was there as a student, I had my semester ticket and the enrollment certificate, and I got the reduced rate for the public transportation. So I was paying a 50% less what normal person used to pay. So for me, when I moved to the full-time role in Germany, I had to buy a just a ticket for the Munich zone 1 zone 2, so costing somewhere around 100 euros. With the student benefit, it was for 52 euros for me back then. So this is the second thing you need to be considering in terms of saving the money. If you are one who is here for a language course and do not want to go for a public insurance, then try to find something which will help you in a longer run, the private insurance companies, because the private insurance companies are much lesser, much cheaper compared to the public insurance companies. There are pros and cons in both the cases. I have discussed that also in my another video. If you haven't watched that video, the link is in the description below. Now the time for the final and bonus tip. If you are here in Germany, my highest recommendation is try to go for the student dormitories, because when you stay in the student dormitories, you eventually will make a good connection with the friends, with the classmates, and these connections are going to help you, or not going to help you in the longer run, but it will make your transition real easy in Germany. You will not feel lonely at this point. You will be able to take a part into the activities. You will be able to make a new friends. This will give you another level of exposure. So I think we have talked about everything at this point in this video. If I have missed on anything, feel free to drop your thoughts, feel free to comment on the video, and do let me know what you need to know more about a student life in Germany, what you can think, what I can do much more, or what I can make videos on. Drop your thoughts in the comment. Until then, stay healthy, stay wealthy. Auf Wiedersehen.